Number 1. Atlat Yam off the coast of modern Israel. Discovered by accident in 1984, this village sits 8 to 12 meters underwater, and it is old, genuinely, verifiably old. Radiocarbon dating places it at roughly 9,000 years, built during the pre-pottery Neolithic period, before humans had even invented ceramics. This predates writing anywhere on Earth by several thousand years. There is no controversy about that. The dating is solid and widely accepted. Divers have found stone houses, a freshwater well, and dozens of human burials, still resting exactly where they were laid to rest. At the center sits a ring of 7 massive stones, arranged deliberately, resembling a miniature underwater version of Stonehenge. One leading theory for why it sank involves a catastrophic tsunami, possibly triggered by a volcanic collapse on Mount Etna, over 1,000 kilometers away. Number 2. Pavlopetri, off the southern coast of Greece. UNESCO recognizes this as the oldest complete submerged town ever mapped. Not scattered ruins, an actual town with streets you can still walk along underwater. The earliest layers of occupation here reach back roughly 5,000 years, into the Neolithic period, before Greek writing existed. The site continued in use for centuries after, so not everything here predates writing, but its foundations genuinely do. Archaeologists have identified at least 15 buildings, courtyards, 2 chamber tombs, and dozens of individual graves laid out across the seabed. It sank through a slow combination of earthquakes and rising sea levels, a process that took place over thousands of years, not a single dramatic event. Number 3. Doggerland, beneath the North Sea. This one isn't a single town. It was an entire landmass, roughly the size of a small country, connecting Britain to mainland Europe. Fishing trawlers have pulled up mammoth bones, flint tools, and even a Mesolithic skull fragment from the seabed here for over a century. As the last ice age ended, sea levels rose gradually, then in some areas catastrophically, submerging this land beneath the waves entirely by around 6,000 BCE. There was no single city here to find. Instead, archaeologists have mapped an entire drowned landscape, complete with ancient rivers, forests, and hunting grounds, proof that land the size of a nation once stood dry. Number 4. The Alpine Amberley Ridge, at the bottom of Lake Huron. Very few people outside archaeology have heard of this one, and that's a shame because it might be one of the best preserved sites on this entire list. Roughly 9,000 years ago, this ridge was dry land, and researchers have found deliberately constructed stone lanes built to funnel caribou toward waiting hunters. The structures were identified using sonar and confirmed with direct underwater excavation, published in a peer-reviewed archaeological journal. Freshwater lakes preserve organic material far better than saltwater oceans do, which means this counts as one of the best documented prehistoric hunting landscapes in North America, sitting almost entirely forgotten under 30 meters of water. Number 5. The submerged Mesolithic coastline of the Western Baltic Sea. Danish and German marine archaeologists have spent decades mapping settlements here that predate both the pyramids and the invention of writing by a wide margin. Divers have recovered fish traps, wooden tools, and even preserved footprints, pressed into what was once dry ground roughly 8,000 years ago. As glaciers melted at the end of the Ice Age, the coastline here retreated inland repeatedly, drowning one settlement after another over several thousand years, in cold, low-oxygen water that preserved organic material remarkably well. Number 6. The prehistoric pile dwellings of the Alpine lakes. Scattered across Switzerland, Germany, France, Italy, Austria, and Slovenia. These are villages built on wooden stilts, driven directly into lake beds and riverbanks. UNESCO has listed over 100 of these sites as a single World Heritage designation, recognizing their extraordinary state of preservation. Some settlements date back over 6,000 years, again placing their origins well before anyone in that region had a writing system. The waterlogged, low-oxygen mud that surrounds these wooden foundations has preserved textiles, tools, and even food remains in stunning detail, forming one of the largest concentrations of prehistoric evidence in Europe. Number 7. Submerged settlement traces along the coast of the Black Sea. Sonar surveys, including work associated with the famous underwater explorer Robert Ballard, have identified what appear to be ancient shorelines and structures well below the current sea level. This connects to a genuinely disputed scientific idea, sometimes called the Black Sea deluge hypothesis, suggesting a sudden and dramatic flood reshaped the region roughly 7,000 years ago. Be careful here, because this exact idea has also been used to fuel much less careful claims about a global flood myth. That version isn't supported by mainstream geology. What is more solidly supported is that sea levels here did rise, submerging coastal land people had used. The scale and speed of that rise remains actively debated among geologists. Number 8. And here's where this list needs to slow down and get skeptical. The Yonaguni Monument, off the coast of Japan. Discovered by a diver in 1986, this underwater rock formation features flat terraces, sharp right angles, and what looks remarkably like a staircase. One marine geologist, after over 100 dives at the site, has argued for decades that it's an artificial structure, possibly over 10,000 years old. Almost every other geologist who has examined it disagrees. The rock here is sandstone that naturally fractures along straight lines, and similar formations exist elsewhere on the Japanese coast with no connection to human activity. No tools, no pottery, no human remains. Nothing that would normally confirm a site as artificial has ever been recovered here. The honest answer, based on current evidence, is that this is very likely a natural formation that happens to look convincingly man-made. Number 9. The Gulf of Kambat, off the coast of Gujarat, India. In 2001, sonar surveys picked up what looked like geometric, city-like structures on the seabed, and the story exploded internationally within days. A single piece of wood, recovered by dredging rather than careful excavation, was radiocarbon dated to roughly 7,500 BCE, and headlines ran with it immediately. Here's the problem archaeologists immediately raised. Dredged material can't be reliably tied to a specific location on the seabed. That wood could have come from almost anywhere nearby. No controlled excavation has ever confirmed man-made structures at this site. Most marine archaeologists consider the geometric sonar patterns natural sediment formations, not architecture, making this one of the most cited examples of a discovery announced before the actual archaeology caught up. Number 10, and this final one is here specifically to correct something. Heraklion, the famous sunken city near Alexandria, Egypt. It's probably the single most photographed submerged city on the internet, with dramatic statues and temple ruins lit up in deep blue water. Here's the honest correction. Heraklion is genuinely spectacular and genuinely underwater, but it does not belong on a list of cities that predate written history. The city thrived during the era of Egyptian hieroglyphs and later Greek writing, is mentioned by name in ancient historical texts, and sank only around the 8th century CE. It's included here because it's the site people mention first, and it's worth being clear about why it doesn't actually qualify. So here's the pattern across this entire list. Some of these sites are among the most rigorously dated discoveries in all of marine archaeology. Atlit Yam, Pavlopetri, Doggerland, the Lake Huron hunting lanes, the Baltic coastline, and the Alpine pile dwellings all rest on solid, peer-reviewed, repeatedly verified evidence. Yonaguni and the Gulf of Kambat rest on far shakier ground, kept alive more by compelling photographs than by controlled excavation. And Heraklion, spectacular as it is, simply belongs to a different, much later chapter of human history entirely. 9 genuine or plausible sites. 1 deliberate correction. That ratio alone tells you something about how these stories usually get told. The real story here isn't a single dramatic flood swallowing an advanced lost civilization. It's a slow, patient rise in sea level, drowning ordinary villages over thousands of years. That version is less cinematic. It also happens to be the one that's actually true. See you next time.